In a busy office where cleaners blend into the background, one woman shattered expectations. When the CEO of Halberg International overheard a janitor fluently speaking multiple languages, it set off a ripple effect no one could have predicted. This isn't a story about charity, it's about revelation. The kind that doesn't rise from the boardroom, but from the floor no one ever looked down at. It was just another Monday morning in Fort Worth, Texas. The lobby of Halberg International buzzed with the usual clatter of heels on tile and the drone of early calls being taken through wireless headsets. Executives marched across the polished floors with purpose, coffee in hand, schedules in mind, and barely a glance for the person scrubbing the marble just inches from their $600 shoes. Denise Atwater, 34, kneeled near the main directory screen, gently brushing grime from the corners with a soft bristle brush and a damp cloth. Her burgundy uniform, crease-pressed and laundered to perfection, blended in with the maroon and charcoal theme of the lobby furniture. Her face held no expression. Her eyes, though, revealed the trace of weariness, etched by years of being noticed only by accident. No one saw her. Not the HR assistant who stepped around her without saying a word. Not the consultant loudly rattling off financial jargon on his AirPods. Not even the intern who knocked over the recycling bin and kept walking. Denise didn't flinch. She reached for a new cloth, folded it methodically, and continued. That's when she noticed him, a man in his 70s, clearly lost, blinking at the touchscreen building directory like it had personally offended him. His blue jacket was worn at the elbows, and he looked as though he'd been standing there far too long. She rose, slowly, quietly. Nin Hao, she said softly. Mandarin. Her tone smooth, crisp. Not academic, but fluent, confident, local, lived in. The old man's eyes lit up instantly. Relief flooded his features as she gestured to the elevator banks and began explaining, her voice clear, patient. He nodded, smiled, bowed slightly. Gratitude. Unmistakable. Behind them, a delivery man in a green vest struggled with a clipboard and a mismatched box. She turned on a heel and addressed him this time in Spanish. Her tone shifted seamlessly, playful, direct. He blinked. Gracias, he mumbled. She barely acknowledged it. Just nodded and pivoted again as another figure approached a contractor, holding a floor plan and muttering to himself. Denise glanced down at the labels, then spoke in fluent French, correcting his pronunciation and pointing to the correct corridor. All of this happened in under 2 minutes. She never raised her voice, never drew attention to herself. She worked like someone who didn't expect praise, like someone who had given up on being noticed a long time ago. But someone did notice. From across the lobby, Jonathan Kellerman, CEO of Halberg International, froze mid-step. He'd just walked in, espresso in hand, halfway into his daily routine when he heard the Mandarin. It wasn't just the language that stopped him, it was the command of it. He turned, saw her, a janitor, speaking 3 languages with fluency, guiding 3 different people in 3 different directions, and then walking away like none of it mattered. He blinked once, then again. It wasn't the first time he'd seen her usually late evenings, polishing brass in the executive hallway, or wiping down glass panels outside the conference rooms. Always quiet, always efficient. He had never thought to learn her name, but now he couldn't stop watching. She didn't notice him approach. She was wiping down the touchscreen directory again when he stepped beside her. "Excuse me," he said. She turned, startled, standing up straight. "Yes, sir." That was Mandarin, wasn't it? And Spanish and French. "Yes, sir." she said, eyes lowered. You speak them fluently? She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. He paused. Any others? Her voice remained calm, without the slightest trace of pride. German, Portuguese, Swahili, some Arabic, a bit of Russian. He blinked. You're telling me you speak 8 languages? She nodded again, not quite looking at him. 9 if you count Latin, but no one really does. He stared at her. No clipboard, no ego, no fuss. Just a janitor with the polyglot range of a seasoned diplomat. What's your name? Denise. Denise Atwater. He nodded, silent for a moment. Miss Atwater, he said. Are you free for a few minutes? Her brow furrowed slightly. Now? He nodded again. Yes, I'd like to talk with you. In my office. She glanced toward her cart, then back at him. Yes, sir. Of course. As they walked to the elevator, she kept her eyes forward, expression unreadable. Not fear, just a quiet kind of preparation. The sort that lives in people who are used to being underestimated. Inside the elevator, silence stretched thin. I've been here 13 years, she said suddenly. Softly. Never been to the top floor. He turned to her. That's about to change. His office smelled like citrus oil and expensive leather. She sat carefully across from him, hands folded on her lap. Her gaze scanned the room but lingered nowhere. He watched her, trying to see past the uniform. So, he began, how does someone with your skill set end up here? She exhaled slowly, not in irritation but in permission, like releasing a truth she rarely got to share. I was a linguistics major at UT Arlington, she said. Top of my class. Had a full ride. I was halfway through my master's when my mother got sick. I dropped out to take care of her. My father passed not long after. Then came bills, rent, a baby, life. She shrugged lightly. This was the job that let me work at night and be home for my daughter in the morning. It wasn't what I planned, but it was what worked. He nodded slowly, hands laced. You kept up your language skills. She smiled faintly. Textbooks, YouTube, free podcasts. I'd borrow old newspapers in foreign languages from the library and translate them for fun. It was the only thing that still felt like mine. He didn't speak right away, just studied her face. No trace of bitterness, just a calm resolve. Miss Atwater, I have a rather unusual request. Her eyebrow arched slightly. I have a meeting this afternoon. Visitors from our Sao Paulo office. Our translator canceled. Would you be willing to sit in? She hesitated. Well, Portuguese. He nodded. She looked down at her hands, then up again. I can do that. Denise's unexpected moment in the spotlight leaves ripples across Halberg International. As whispers spread, some are inspired, others threatened. The CEO offers her a new role, but walking through that glass door comes at a cost. She's no longer invisible, and not everyone is happy about that. The next morning, Denise walked through the employee entrance just before dawn. Same as always, but this time, people noticed. Not everyone stared. Not everyone said anything. But something had shifted, like the hum of a room changing when someone important walks in. A pause too long in a hallway. A whisper that wasn't there yesterday. She didn't wear anything new. Still in her burgundy uniform. Still pushing the same cleaning cart. but she moved a little differently now. She'd been seen, and that changed everything. By 9:15, Jonathan Kellerman had already cleared a space on the 12th floor, a modest office with a window and a desk, previously used for storage. He called HR, asked for a job description to be drafted under a new title, International Cultural Liaison. He didn't want it to be a gesture. He wanted it to mean something. At 10:30, he called her in again. She entered quietly, eyes scanning the floor-to-ceiling windows like they were pieces of art. "I have an offer for you," he said. Her eyebrows rose just a fraction. "You've shown skill I can't ignore and shouldn't have missed. I want you to take on a new position, one that fits what you actually do." He slid the paper toward her. She read it in silence. Title: International Cultural Liaison Role. Assist with translation, cultural communication, global partner relations. Salary: 3x her current wage. She didn't blink at the money. She didn't even flinch. "What's the catch?" she asked. "No catch." She studied his face. "I'm not a diplomat," she said. "I've never worked in an office. I don't own a blazer. My resume has 13 years of cleaning floors and a college career I never finished." "And yet," he said gently, "you did more in 20 minutes yesterday than some people do in a quarter." She looked down. "I don't want this to be charity." "It isn't. It's overdue recognition and, frankly, opportunity for both of us." She nodded slowly, still uncertain. Then, "Can I keep my old badge?" He smiled. "Of course." The news moved faster than Slack. By lunchtime, the whispers had turned to full conversations. "She's what now?" "You mean the janitor, that Denise?" "I heard she's fluent in like a dozen languages." They just gave her an office. In the break room, 2 junior marketing assistants dissected the story over microwaved lunches. "I've got a master's degree in international relations, and I've been waiting for a promotion for 2 years," one said bitterly. "And she was mopping floors on Friday. Maybe she's some kind of genius. Or maybe Kellerman's just trying to look woke." Upstairs, Denise was shown her new office by a stiff HR assistant who barely made eye contact. "Here's your ID, computer logins, and your email. Someone will bring you onboarding materials later," she said, already halfway out the door. Denise stood alone in the room. One desk, one chair, one window. It was the first time she'd had a space with a door that locked. She sat quietly, took the ID card, slipped it into her pocket, then reached into her cleaning pouch and pulled out her old name badge. Denise A. Maintenance team edges worn, corners dented. She placed it in the top drawer, just to remember. Her first meeting was that afternoon, an interdepartmental sync involving teams from Germany and Morocco. She walked in 5 minutes early, files in hand. The room was already half full. People glanced up. Some nodded politely. Most didn't. A senior manager from logistics barely hid his frown. "She's the liaison?" someone whispered. No one answered. When the German rep introduced himself in his native tongue, she replied fluently. Same with the Moroccan partner. She not only translated, she caught an error in one of the schedules, saved them from a delay that could have cost thousands. But after the meeting, no one clapped. No one thanked her. They just filed out. Except one man, a warehouse coordinator named Elias, who lingered behind. "My mother spoke 5 languages," he said quietly. "But she cleaned houses, Nobody ever asked her what she knew. Denise nodded, unable to speak. He smiled. Glad someone finally did. By Thursday, Denise had found a rhythm. Mornings in her office, afternoons in meetings, evenings back on the floor, not cleaning, but listening. She made it a point to check in with the night crew, the cafeteria team, even the shipping dock. I want to know what you need to do your job better, she told them. Nobody knows the gaps like the people who work in them. Some looked at her sideways, others nodded, cautiously grateful. By Friday, she was the name everyone was either talking about or trying to ignore, and not all of it was kind. Upstairs, a director named Eleanor Craig took notice. Board member. 40 years in the company. Known for cutting budgets and cutting deeper with words. She called Kellerman. I heard you made your janitor an executive, she said. I made her exactly what she is indispensable. Does she have a degree? No. Experience. In life, more than you know. There was a pause. I want to meet her, Eleanor said. Monday morning. Denise sat across from Eleanor Craig in a room with no warmth and no windows. Just 2 chairs, a gray table, and silence. Eleanor's tone was sharp. Miss Atwater, you do not have the traditional background for this role. Denise nodded once. That's true. You didn't finish college. You've never worked in a formal business environment. You're not certified in translation, negotiation, or international law. All so true. Eleanor folded her hands, then explained to me how someone like you can be trusted to represent this company globally. Denise didn't hesitate. I speak 9 languages. I've used them to clean up your contracts, fix your schedules, and prevent 3 near mistakes this week alone. She leaned forward. I'm not asking for permission to matter. I'm proving that I already do. Eleanor blinked for the first time. I'm not looking for applause, Denise added, but I won't apologize for being good at something people didn't expect me to be good at. The silence between them was sharp enough to cut steel. Then Eleanor closed the folder in front of her. We'll be watching your performance closely. Denise smiled faintly. I hope so. That night, Denise walked home with tired feet and a full heart. She called her daughter. I needed to hear your voice, she said. You okay, Mom? She looked up at the Halberg building glass and steel against the night sky. I am now. Denise continues to prove her value not through titles, but through action. As she builds connections across borders and departments, she shifts not just perception, but the very culture of Halberg International. But even as her influence grows, she never forgets where she started. And soon, neither will anyone else. By the start of the next quarter, something had changed at Halberg International. Not in the stock price or the leadership chart, not in an email memo or marketing campaign, but in the air, in the way people moved, paused, listened, and it had everything to do with the woman whose name used to sit at the bottom of the cleaning roster. Now, it sat on the door of her own office. Denise Atwater, Cultural Liaison, Global Affairs. Every morning, she arrived early, not because she had to, but because she always had. Habit born from years when no one noticed if she was late, or early, or there at all. Now they noticed. Every Monday, she met with 3 regional teams. On Wednesdays, she called suppliers in North Africa, translating and untangling miscommunications that had plagued logistics for months. By Friday, she was sitting with a new hire from the Philippines, explaining HR benefits in Tagalog not because it was her job, but because it made him feel seen. It wasn't long before the stories spread. She fixed a customs issue that's been killing us for a year. She saved a deal just by catching a tone shift in an email thread. She's not just a translator, she's a bridge. But Denise never boasted. She didn't need to, because she wasn't there to impress people, she was there to serve, to see the things everyone else missed. And one day, it gave her an idea. She knocked on Jonathan Kellerman's door with a stack of papers. "What's this?" he asked. "A proposal," she said, "for a pilot program, something called Voice Inside." He leaned forward. "Go on." "I've been talking to staff in custodial, cafeteria, loading docks. Some of them speak multiple languages. Some have degrees from other countries that aren't recognized here. Others just never got the chance to be seen." She slid the packet across his desk. This program would help identify talent in non-traditional roles, give them access to mentorship, training, and visibility. If it weren't for you, I'd still be cleaning lobby floors speaking 9 languages to myself. There are others like me. We just haven't found them yet. He opened the folder, read the first line, then looked at her. "You've already built half of this." She smiled. "It's already happening. I'm just making it official." He stood up and extended his hand. "Let's do it." Within weeks, Voice Inside launched. It wasn't flashy, just a sign-up form and a few info sessions in the basement training room. But by the end of the first month, 42 employees had enrolled. A night shift dock worker who spoke Russian, Ukrainian, and Polish. A security guard with an unfinished degree in comparative law from Kenya. A cafeteria worker who translated for her church's refugee ministry on weekends. They were everywhere, and now they were being seen. Then came the conference, the Global Logistics and Diversity Summit in Cincinnati. Kellerman was invited to speak, but he passed the slot to her. "I want them to hear from you," he said. "Not about you." Denise stood in front of a room full of executives in tailored suits and glossy shoes. She wore a navy blouse, no frills. Her voice was steady. "I was a janitor," she began, "and I spoke 9 languages. For 13 years, no one asked." She let the pause stretch. Talent doesn't always wear a tie. Genius doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it holds a mop. The room didn't blink. Up. But the moment someone looks close enough to see past the uniform, that's when everything changes. Not just for the person, but for the company, the culture, the future. She didn't ask for applause. She didn't need to. It came anyway. Afterward, a young man approached her in tears. "My mom's a housekeeper," he said. "She speaks 5 languages too. I used to feel embarrassed. I don't anymore." Denise placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't ever hide brilliance, especially when it doesn't look like what people expect." Back at Halberg, the pilot program expanded. Internal referrals jumped. Mentorship circles began. Department heads started attending Voice Inside sessions. People noticed who they had been walking past. And to honor the woman who made it possible, the company did one more thing. They took the downstairs training room, the one where new hires once watched safety videos, and filled out paperwork, and renamed it the Atwater Room. A space where hidden voices are heard. No balloons, no cameras, just a new plaque on the wall and a legacy that had already begun. Denise found the note on her desk 2 weeks later. No return address, no signature, just a small envelope, handwritten. Inside, a torn slip of paper. I used to think I was invisible, but today I stood a little taller because of you. Thank you. She read it twice, then tucked it into her drawer beside her old janitor badge. A reminder that someone was always watching, that impact doesn't ask permission, that you don't have to be important to do important things. One evening, Denise stood on the curb outside Halberg International and looked up at the building, tall, cold, glass wrapped in steel. 13 years she had walked into that place unseen. Now, people held the door open for her. Now, people asked for her opinion, her voice, her guidance. But she never changed to fit the role. She brought herself into it, her full story. And now the building remembered her name, not in whispers, not in rumors, but on the wall, in the program, in the people, where it mattered. She adjusted her bag over her shoulder, smiled to herself, and whispered, "Brilliance doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it carries a mop." Then she turned the corner and walked home in the quiet power of being seen. 3 hours later, she walked into conference room 3C in the same uniform she'd worn to mop the lobby. 4 Brazilian executives looked up, puzzled, expecting someone else. But then she opened her mouth. Her accent was perfect, her tone nuanced, warm, professional. Within minutes, the energy in the room changed. Tension drained. Jokes landed. Contracts were explained with precision. Laughter filled the air. Jonathan Kellerman stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching the room breathe for the first time in days. She wasn't just translating. She was bridging. The meeting ended with a handshake and a grin. One of the Brazilian executives turned to him and said in accented English, "She's better than anyone we've worked with this year. Where did you find her?" Kellerman looked at Denise. She was collecting used glasses onto a tray. Silent as ever, he smiled. "Right here," he said.